Is the buying process going to change forever within the Toronto/GTA, even Ontario real estate market? Well, we're going to get into that. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone. This is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, back with another video for you guys here today. Before we get into the point of today's video, as always, you can find my contact information with regards to my Gmail and my office information if you want to get in touch with me, as well as my Instagram and TikTok. I post different types of content on Instagram and TikTok when I'm showing a property to a client, or if you want to see what I have sold. Lastly, if you want to do a little bit more due diligence, more research about me before you get in touch with me, feel free to just use Google and Google my name, so you can find my Google reviews and go through them so you know what type of person you would be talking to or working with if you wish to work with anyone. Anyways, let's get to the point of today's video, which is the blind bidding ban that has been proposed by the federal government with regards to the Canadian real estate market and housing market, and how the provincial government has responded to it. So first, we're going to go through the facts of the case, what the blind bidding ban even is, what a blind bidding even is, and thereafter, towards the end of the video, on the second half, I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions as a working real estate agent in the city of Toronto and the greater Toronto area. First, let's establish what blind bidding even is. Blind bidding is the common practice that occurs when a property for sale, whether it's a condominium or freehold property, is offered at a bidding price. A bidding price is a listing price that is intentionally lower than market value. So for example, let's take the case of a property that around market value, you're looking at 1.2 to 1.220, right? Well, in a bidding situation, the selling side lists that property for, let's say, $999,000. Sometimes in very hot markets, egregiously, they go as low as $899, $799. The point here is, when you list something lower than market value, the hope is, if the market conditions are right, you get a lot of buyers viewing the property, a lot of interest, a lot of intrigue, and on the bidding night, which is a night you have selected as the selling side where you're going to review offers, well, all those buyers are going to submit offers. Let's say you have 4 to 5 offers, and due to the 4 to 5 offers, there's going to be a lot of buyer competition, a lot of internal competition. Buyers are going to continue to bid up the price. And the hope is, on offer night, the property will sell more than you would have listed it otherwise if you listed it at market value. So $100 to $200 to, even in some instances in very hot markets, $500,000 above asking. And this will obviously be the result of that buyer competition that was caused by the lower than market value asking price. Well, the blind portion of this bidding process comes in on offer night, where the buyers competing against one another have no idea on paper what the other buyer is offering. And that is because the selling agent, the listing agent, is not allowed to disclose not only what his own seller wants in terms of price, in terms of conditions, in terms of closing, but what other buyers are offering as well. So that is where it's quite opaque, right? If you are one of 4 buyers in a bidding war situation, in a multiple offer situation, you have no idea what the other buyers are offering. Now, in practice, although not a lot of agents go as far as to say what the other buyer is offering, in practice, what usually happens is, upfront, the selling agent says, you're gonna have to come with your best offer, and if the best offers are close, we'll get everyone that is within range a second chance. So in practice, just to give you an example, let's say a property in a very hot market gets 8 offers, 3 of those offers are very close. The listing agent will call those 3 offers back and say, hey, you 3 are very close. You have until this time, if you wish to do so, to improve your offer. And often the most important factor here is price. Second most important factor is usually conditions, right? So sometimes you do have an instance where the highest offer does not get the property because the second highest offer was only lower by $5,000 to $10,000 and they were not conditional, whereas the highest priced offer was conditional. There's a lot of ways it can go down, but often, once again, the most important is price. The second most important is the conditions or lack thereof. And often the closing date comes in third in terms of how much it is emphasized and thought about on bidding night. Well, now the government of Canada is proposing to do away with the blind bidding process on top of a larger buyer's bill of rights. The proposal's main assumption is that it is because of the blind nature of the bidding process that properties sell 300 to 200 to 400K above asking, and as a result drive up the market value and drive up property prices, and once again, as a further consequence of that, further worsen the affordability issue that exists for buyers. So essentially, this is offered as an extra layer of protection for buyers to do away with the blind process. And don't take my word for it. Let's just read what the Canadian government via the budget has said themselves with regards to why they are targeting the blind bidding process. And I quote, unfair practices like blind bidding or asking buyers to waive their rights to a home inspection can make the process of buying a home even more stressful to many Canadians. To help level the playing field for young and middle-class Canadians, the government will take steps to make the process of buying a home more open and transparent. So the goal ultimately here is to increase transparency, and the hope is a byproduct of the more transparent process will be buyers not overpaying as much, and as a result not driving up prices in times of desperate competition. Now, there are a lot of people who would say that it is not because of multiple offers that there is desperate competition, but because of inventory issues. They would rather point towards more basic microeconomics in terms of laws of supply and demand and how supply and demand interact with each other to explain the affordability issue and rising prices, as opposed to pointing towards, the methods of selling in terms of multiple offers and bidding wars and the blind nature of the bidding war. I will address this later in the video when I give you my thoughts and opinions on this. Nonetheless, the government of Canada is of the opinion that the blind bidding process is a major contributing factor to rising prices and affordability problems. Now, how has the provincial government responded to this? Because this is a federal proposal, but housing within Canada is very much so under the purview of the provincial governments. Well, with regards to my area of focus and interest, where I work, Toronto, Greater Toronto Area, Ontario, the provincial government has proposed that the selling side, the seller, can opt in to revealing prices of other buyers. So in other words put, the seller can choose for the representative to reveal the contents of other offers to buyers. The provincial government is essentially taking the federal government's proposal and amending it a bit and putting it in the hands and under the discretion of the selling side. And this is where we're going to quickly shift to my thoughts and opinions on it. Because, using that as a segue, if the seller has the final say or not, that definitely will have an impact of dampening the impact of the blind bidding ban as intended by the federal government. Because sellers can easily choose to not reveal contents of buyers' offers to other buyers, and it will be blind as ever, as opaque as ever, and buyers would not really know, and buyers really wouldn't know what prices they're competing against. And I guess to take a step back at a more larger view, if you have been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I, obviously professionally use the bidding war process or listing a property below market value to induce multiple offers when the time is right for my sellers. So I can't judge, right? If it's a good time for my sellers to induce a bidding war for their property, given their property's location, their property's attributes, the larger market conditions, and if that is the best method for me to get the most money for my sellers, well, of course, I will do as such. So that's the professional real estate agent Sam speaking here. But objectively, I do believe that bidding wars, especially blind bidding wars, do contribute to higher prices in very hot markets. That is not to ignore the underlying market conditions in terms of inventory issues, in terms of lower interest rates that contribute to the hot housing market. So it is not me saying that the blind bidding war process is the main driving factor. No, on the contrary, I do agree with most others when they say inventory and more larger microeconomic issues are what contribute to rising housing prices. However, when you do have those conditions in place, the blind bidding war process only further exasperates buyers overpaying and as a result driving up prices, in my opinion. You have to think about it. If you are in a bidding war and you do not know the offer price of other offers and you're a buyer, you may, and in some instances, buyers who are very desperate do this, offer $70,000 more than your initial offer, or $100,000 more than your initial offer, or increase your offer at $25,000 to $40,000 intervals because you just want to make sure you get the property. Whereas all you needed to do in the first place was increase your offer by $15,000 and you would have won. Well, if you don't know what you're competing with, a lot of times, once again, unfortunately, buyers do this, they increase their offer by $30,000 to win. So it will definitely reduce overbidding. There is no question about that, and I don't believe anyone can make a convincing argument that it will not reduce overbidding. That is not to say, though, that it will reduce selling prices, because if two buyers are on a level playing field and they know what each other are offering, well, they're going to increase the offers at $5,000 to $10,000 intervals until one of them just taps out and says, you know what, I don't love the property that much. Whereas in a blind situation, once again, one buyer can be offering $15,000 more. Well, this buyer doesn't know what this buyer is offering. All they have to offer is $20,000 more. But instead of doing that, just to have ease of mind, they're gonna offer $50,000 more. And you can sit there and laugh, but you'd be surprised. I have been on the selling side. I have seen this happen many times. Buyers overpay, and unfortunately, it's a zero-sum game. So when I'm representing the seller, it's my job to make the buyer overpay. That's just the crude facts of the matter. And lastly, I think if the ban on blind bidding does come into effect, comps in terms of what has sold recently in the area that is like the subject property, well, comps are once again in a hot market going to be more useful than they currently are, because the problem with comps currently as is in a hot market is that they might not be as useful because you have a comp that says this property is worth 1.7 million. Well, a buyer just decided to pay $100,000 more for it just to win a bidding war, and now 1.8 is the new comp. And as you can tell, that is not really healthy with regards to the intrinsic value of properties. There is a certain degree to which the popular consensus is a property is worth what someone else is willing to pay for it. But if that is the case for every single property, we kind of end up losing our grasp on what properties are actually worth if we just apply that philosophy of, well, everything is worth what everyone is willing to pay for it. Well, that does not seem at a grand level the best way to move forward. In summary, I am a fan of the ban on blind bidding. I do believe it will lessen overbidding on individual buyers' parts. I do not believe it will have a demonstrative impact on property prices. I do believe that the larger, more macro and microeconomic conditions are what will continue to drive property prices. But when it is a hot market and inventory is low, sellers have way more power. The absence of blind bidding will help buyers have some sort of say with regards to its mere introduction of transparency. Anyways, that's Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate. You can find my Gmail and my office information in the description box. Feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Reach out to me if you have any further questions about what was discussed in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and stay tuned. Thank you.